Every month, I would sit at my desk, look at my bank account, and feel that familiar knot tighten in my stomach. On paper, everything looked fine. My job paid decent, I had a steady income, and I was doing my best to save and invest. But every time I saw those numbers, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. No matter how much I earned, I always seemed to end up right back at zero. It was like I was caught in a never-ending cycle. Money would come in, I'd spend or save a little, then suddenly, poof, everything was gone. The process would repeat the next month, with the same frustrating pattern. No matter what I tried, I seemed trapped in a loop I couldn't quite understand. I'd ask myself, why does this happen? Why, despite earning enough, does the money disappear so quickly? I worked hard. I thought positive. I kept trying to plan better, but the result was always the same. It was as if my efforts were fighting against some invisible force I couldn't see or name. I'd watch others succeed, and a part of me would feel genuinely happy for them. But deep down, I couldn't shake this gnawing feeling that I was missing something crucial. Was I somehow sabotaging myself? Or was I just cursed to always start over, no matter how much I wanted stability and abundance? Over time, I began to realize that my struggles weren't just about money. They were about something far deeper. I started noticing that every time I received a little extra, I'd immediately feel anxious, guilty almost, like I didn't deserve it or that I'd somehow ruin it. When I tried to save more, I'd feel this tight grip on money, convinced that if I held on too tightly or showed too much desire, I'd push it away. And when I earned more, instead of celebrating or feeling worthy, I'd worry about losing it. So I'd subconsciously do things to make that happen. It's hard to admit, but I was caught in patterns I didn't even know I was creating. It wasn't purely about finances. It was about my mindset, how I viewed money, success, and myself in relation to both. I'd always thought I just needed to work harder, but what I didn't see was how my thoughts, my feelings, were shaping every coin I received and every coin I lost. It was like I was trying to build a house on unstable ground. No matter how many bricks I put in, the foundation was cracked with invisible fears and old beliefs I didn't even realize I carried. In many ways, I felt powerless. I'd read about manifesting, about the law of attraction, about thinking positive, but nothing seemed to stick. I'd try affirmations, visualization, gratitude. I'd tell myself I was abundant, I was worthy, I was capable, and yet, the money never stayed. It was frustrating and confusing. I'd ask myself, what am I missing? Why do some people seem to attract wealth easily, while I keep hitting the same wall? I genuinely wanted a change, a breakthrough, but the more I pushed, the more elusive that breakthrough felt. Then, one day, I had a breakthrough of my own, though it wasn't what I expected. It was a painful realization. I discovered that my biggest problem wasn't outside circumstances. It was what was going on inside my mind. I'd been unknowingly repeating old patterns, beliefs buried deep within me. Beliefs like money is hard to keep, or I don't deserve abundance, were running on autopilot, sabotaging my efforts at every turn. I hadn't just been trying to manifest money. I had been fighting against my own mental blocks, my own doubts, and fears dressed up as logic or common sense. That moment, that painful realization, shifted everything. I understood that if I wanted real change, I had to first change the way I saw myself and my relationship with money. It wasn't about more work or better strategies. It was about awakening to the truth that my mindset held the key, that I had the power, my genuine power, to rewrite those patterns, to decode the silent script that kept me stuck in scarcity. I realized that I could begin to reprogram my thoughts, feelings, and beliefs, just as much as I could set goals or make plans. It was a game changer. And so, I started questioning everything I believed about money. I started exploring what it truly meant to be abundant, not just financially, but mentally and emotionally, too. I knew I had to shift from a place of lack, worry, guilt, fear, to a state of trust, gratitude, and inner security. Because no matter how much I earned on paper, if my mind still believed I might lose it all, that's exactly what would happen. I learned that the real secret was aligning my inner world with the abundance I wanted to attract. No more fighting myself, no more chaos inside. Now, I want to share all of this with you because I know what it feels like to be stuck in that cycle, falling forward, then slipping back, tired of trying harder and still feeling empty. I've been there, and I've come out the other side. And I promise you, there is a way out. It begins with understanding that your mind is the most powerful asset you have, that your beliefs and feelings about money create your reality, that your true prosperity begins deep within, long before the numbers change on your bank statement. And if you're willing to look beneath the surface, to question what you've accepted as truth, your entire relationship with abundance can transform. You don't have to keep repeating those same familiar patterns. A new path is possible, one that leads to flow, stability, and genuine wealth, not just in your wallet, but within your heart. And it all starts right now, with your awareness. Once I understood the roots of my scarcity mindset, I began to realize that what I had perceived as personal shortcomings were actually deeply ingrained mental patterns that shaped my entire relationship with wealth. These patterns weren't accidental. They were embedded in my subconscious, layers of conditioning that I had accumulated over years, perhaps even from childhood. Imagine them as invisible chains woven into the fabric of my psyche, limiting my capacity to truly believe in my worthiness to receive abundance without guilt or hesitation. Recognizing this was a breakthrough, but it also meant I had a mountain of work ahead, dismantling those mental constructs piece by piece. I started paying close attention to the stories I told myself whenever money was involved. Instead of simply brushing off negative ideas, I forced myself to confront them head-on. When I felt like I should feel guilty about earning more, I would ask, why am I judging myself this way? When thoughts of scarcity crept in, like, there's never enough, I learned to challenge that perspective immediately. It wasn't enough to see these beliefs. I had to actively question their validity. Were they facts, or just stories I had accepted without questioning? Most of the time, I realized they were assumptions rooted in fear, not reality. Building on this, I discovered the simple yet powerful technique of replacing limiting ideas with empowering affirmations. For example, instead of dwelling on, I can't hold on to wealth, I would shift into, I am a magnet for prosperity, and it flows effortlessly to me. Repetition of these phrases began to rewire my thinking, gradually weakening old mental habits. But more importantly, I learned that feelings play an essential role. Simply reciting affirmations without genuine emotion doesn't produce lasting change. Instead, I worked on cultivating a genuine sense of gratitude, feeling as if I were already living the abundance I desired. That emotional charge acts like rocket fuel for manifestation, igniting desires from passive wishfulness into active creation. Another dimension I uncovered involves the stories I tell about my identity. For a long time, I believed that financial stability was something reserved for the lucky few or those with special connections. That belief kept me playing small, secretly convinced I lacked what it took to build true wealth. However, once I started shifting how I saw myself, seeing abundance as a natural extension of who I was, I began to notice opportunities where before I saw barriers. It's akin to adjusting the lens of a camera. Suddenly, what was blurry or hidden becomes clear and within reach. By affirming, I am capable of creating wealth, I began to act in ways that reinforced that new self-image, such as seeking out knowledge or taking tangible steps toward my goals. Furthermore, I recognized that cultivating a sense of inner security was paramount. External possessions, no matter how lavish, can produce temporary confidence, but a resilient foundation inside insulates you from fluctuations. When I focused on developing this internal core, anchoring myself in trust that the universe supplies, I found that my reactions to unexpected expenses or setbacks softened significantly. Instead of panic or despair, I felt a calm assurance that everything was happening for my highest good. This shift in perspective transformed my entire experience. Challenges no longer felt like insurmountable blocks, but tests of faith that I was capable of navigating. As I embraced this mindset, I became less reactive and more proactive, recognizing subtle cues and inspired ideas that led to new streams of income. Another critical discovery was understanding that the language I used about my financial landscape shaped how I experienced it. Words have power. They act as signals sent to my subconscious. When I replaced negative descriptors like, I'm struggling or I never have enough, with positive, abundant language, phrases like, money flows easily to me, or I am constantly attracting wealth, I rewired my mental environment. This subtle yet profound change created an ongoing loop of constructive signals that reinforced my new beliefs, gradually dissolving the old patterns of cardboard, thin hope, and defeat. Finally, I came to see that the most effective way to alter my reality was by developing a daily attitude of openness. Rather than clinging to rigid plans or specific outcomes, I learned to stay receptive and attentive. When an opportunity arose or a new idea sparked, I would ask myself, is this in alignment with my vision of abundance? If yes, I'd take inspired steps without overthinking. I found that flow wasn't about trying harder or controlling everything. It was about trusting the process and being willing to embrace the unknown. That willingness opened doors that I once believed were closed, transforming my relationship with wealth from a struggle into a dance of continuous creation, built on a foundation of trust, clarity, and intentional focus. Having peeled back the layers of my limiting beliefs, I realized that one powerful step I hadn't fully embraced was the importance of intentional focus. Shifts in consciousness aren't just about unwinding old ideas. It's also about directing conscious attention toward what I truly want to experience. Instead of allowing my mind to drift into worries or doubts, I started to cultivate deliberate mental pathways that aligned with abundance. I recognized that every thought carries energy, like a signal sent out into the universe, and what I focus on most becomes manifest in my physical reality. One vivid metaphor I use to understand this is comparing my mind to a garden. If I leave weeds of negativity unchecked, they quickly overrun the space, blocking out the vibrant, thriving plants I genuinely desire. But when I intentionally plant seeds of appreciation, envision success, and nourish those thoughts, I begin to cultivate a garden that blooms with prosperity and possibility. The subtle power of this focus is staggering. What I choose to hold on to mentally shapes my entire experience. It's no longer a passive process. It becomes an active act of creation, where clarity about my desires and unwavering attention on them become the primary tools for transformation. Now, consider how this applies when faced with unexpected setbacks. It's tempting to dwell on what went wrong or to focus on obstacles that seem insurmountable. But I learned to pivot my focus instead. I asked myself, what can I learn from this situation? How is this serving my growth? Reframing problems as opportunities shifts my mental state from frustration to curiosity. It's akin to adjusting a camera lens to bring a different part of life into sharp focus, revealing new paths I hadn't considered before. When I redirect my energy in this way, I maintain momentum instead of sinking into feelings of defeat, which only serve to repel abundance further. Building on this, however, I found that anchoring my attention in gratitude magnifies the magnetism of what I desire. Instead of merely wishing for more or chasing after external achievements, I began to genuinely appreciate what I already possess in the moment. This doesn't mean complacency. It's about recognizing the richness that's already present in my life, no matter how small. By truly feeling thankful for the simplest things, a kind word, a moment of peace, a small victory, I create a vibrational frequency that aligns more closely with prosperity. The act of gratitude becomes a bridge, transforming fleeting desires into steady streams of energetic alignment. This vibrational shift acts like a tuning fork, making my internal frequency resonate with abundance rather than scarcity. Another layer I uncovered involves the idea of emotional consistency. It's not enough to occasionally think positively. I learned that sustained emotional alignment is crucial. When I experience moments of genuine jubilation or deep certainty that what I seek is already on its way, I elevate my frequency in a way that accelerates manifestation. Conversely, frequent dips into doubt or impatience dilute my energy field. Because emotion amplifies the thoughts I hold, cultivating feelings of joy, trust, and anticipation becomes a daily practice. It's as if I'm creating a powerful current that pulls my desires toward me, strong, persistent, and unwavering. The more I nurture these high-energy states, the less space there is for hesitation or disbelief to creep in. Alongside this, I realize the significance of developing an unwavering inner conviction, independent of external validation. Often, I was tempted to seek immediate proof through external sources, waiting for tangible results to confirm my intentions. But real mastery involves trusting the unseen process. I learned to embody the certainty that my aspirations are already fulfilled, even if the physical evidence hasn't yet arrived. This mental stance demands discipline, but with consistent practice, it becomes second nature. I stop testing the universe's patience and instead trust that the universe is always aligning on my behalf. That unwavering belief acts like a compass, guiding my daily actions and choices, fostering a sense of peace amid fluctuations and uncertainties. To fully activate this internal state, I adopted rituals of mental affirmation, visualization, and emotional immersion. These aren't just superficial practices. They're intentional acts that train the subconscious mind. When I visualize, I make the experience as vivid as possible, engaging all my senses and feeling as though I'm already living my desired reality. That emotional involvement transforms a mental picture into a powerful signal that the universe can't ignore. Over time, these sustained practices rewire my subconscious script, replacing doubts with confidence and scarcity with abundance. This process is akin to tuning a musical instrument. Once properly calibrated, every note rings true and harmonizes effortlessly. I found that internal harmony creates a natural flow, freeing me from mental resistance and opening pathways for manifestation to unfold with grace and ease. In this state, synchronicities become more frequent, opportunities effortlessly arise, and abundance flows to me with less resistance. Once I understood that mastering focus and aligning my energy isn't a one-time effort, but an ongoing choice, I committed to nurturing this energetic environment daily. That's when the true magic began. Abundance stopped being just a hope, turning instead into a natural state of being I could cultivate at will. What I began to see more clearly was the importance of a sustained energetic posture, regardless of external circumstances. When I let go of any attachment to immediate results, I started approaching my intentions as if they were already part of my reality. This attitude doesn't come from superficial wishfulness, but from cultivating an unwavering inner conviction. Think of it as traveling with a compass that points steadily toward your destination, no matter which detours or distractions appear along the way. It's a persistent alignment that keeps your focus sharp and your vibrations consistent, even when faced with setbacks or delays. As I practiced this unwavering stance, I realized that progress isn't about forcing change, but about maintaining a vibrational congruence that naturally pulls opportunities into my field. In this process, I learned to distinguish between genuine desire and subconscious longing born from scarcity. Often, we confuse the two, chasing after external symbols of success, hoping they'll fill an internal void. But true manifestation starts from within, when your core belief is rooted in confidence and envisioning yourself already living a fulfilled life. Suddenly, I'd notice how my internal landscape shifted when I stopped yearning and started expecting. Expectations rooted in certainty generate a different energy, that of a person who feels deserving and complete. I started waking up each day with a clear mental image reinforced by feelings of already having achieved what I sought. It's like setting sail with the wind at your back. You don't need to push hard, because your energy is directing you forward, effortlessly guiding actions and opportunities your way. Another vital insight I gained was the significance of adjusting the stories I tell myself about scarcity. Instead of repeating old narratives like "money doesn't last," I began narrating a different script, one where financial flow is abundant, infinite, and flowing with ease. By consistently rewriting the mental dialogue, I rewired emotional responses to money. This shift didn't happen just through affirmation, but through conscious storytelling that reinforced my new reality. I imagined myself as a magnet, attracting wealth without struggle or guilt. And with each mental story, I felt more aligned with the version of me who naturally receives and retains prosperity. Over time, these stories became internal truths that overshadowed previous doubts, transforming my inner landscape from one of limitation to one of possibility. Now, consider how carefully emotional states influenced this entire process. The intensity with which I connected to my desired outcomes carried more power than sheer repetition of positive thoughts. When I truly immersed myself in feelings of gratitude, pride, or excitement, like I was already living my dream, my vibration rose to a level that magnetized opportunities into my experience. It's similar to how a tuning fork vibrates at a certain pitch. The stronger and more harmonious I became within, the more aligned I was with those positive frequencies. The key was to deepen the emotional resonance until it felt natural and effortless. This way, I was not just wishing or imagining from a distance, but embodying that reality fully, as if I had already stepped into the life I envisioned. Building on this point, developing an attitude of patience became essential. Progress often appears slow when we focus solely on external signs, but I learned that genuine manifestation is more like planting seeds in fertile soil. You nurture them daily, watering, providing sunlight, until one day, sprouts emerge unexpectedly. Recognizing that spontaneous opportunities often show up without warning reassures me to stay calm and persistent. I don't need to manipulate or control every detail, but instead trust the natural unfolding of my intentions. This trust transforms frustration into a sense of peace, freeing my energy from unnecessary tension. What's remarkable is how this mental shift alone can open up new pathways that previously seemed blocked, guiding me toward what I desire in ways I couldn't predict. Another perspective I explored involved the silent power of visualizing the outcome and then releasing attachment to how it manifests. I began to understand that obsessively clinging to a specific method or timeline can create resistance, obstructing the flow. Instead, I adopted a mindset of openness, imagining my goals as already achieved while surrendering the how to divine timing. This approach allowed me to act confidently without attachment to immediate results. Because I no longer fixated on the process, I found myself more receptive to surprises, small signs, intuitive nudges, or fortunate encounters. These moments became the universe's way of confirming that my inside state of preparedness was aligned with my outer circumstances. The magic happened when I trusted what I couldn't see yet, knowing that the next step would appear exactly when I was ready for it. Ultimately, I came to see that a continual focus on internal alignment, not just fleeting thoughts or fleeting emotions, creates a resilient vibrational foundation. It's like constructing an inner sanctuary where feelings of worthiness and abundance flourish regardless of external shifts. When this inner fortress becomes strong, setbacks no longer shake my sense of security. Instead, they're seen as temporary maps on a journey of expansion. My energy becomes less reactive to temporary conditions, and I develop a sense of mastery in shaping my reality through my mental and emotional choices. This internal sovereignty is what allows the alignment to remain steady, paving the way for divine opportunities to flow freely to me. The more I nurture this inner landscape, the less I depend on external validation, granting me a freedom few can imagine, living in a state of continuous abundance simply because I choose to. Once I shifted my focus from chasing after external outcomes to cultivating a deep sense of inner trust, I found myself uncovering subtler layers of resistance I hadn't been aware of before. Sometimes I would set clear goals, but then question whether I truly believed I deserved them. It became clear that mental certainty extended far beyond simple affirmations. It required a persistent, unwavering conviction that I was inherently worthy of prosperity. To strengthen this belief, I began noticing where doubts would quietly sneak in, moments of hesitation that undermined my confidence. Recognizing these fleeting thoughts was the first step. Confronting them was the next. I had to actively challenge the notion that success was reserved for others and remind myself that my worthiness was not something I needed to earn. This involved consciously rewiring my subconscious to accept abundance as a natural extension of my being, rather than an extraordinary gift bestowed on a lucky few. Building on this, I started paying meticulous attention to how I responded emotionally during moments of achievement. Rather than dismissing positive feelings or allowing them to dissolve quickly, I consciously extended those moments of joy and appreciation. By dwelling longer in feelings of accomplishment, satisfaction, or gratitude, I was effectively amplifying my vibrational signature. For instance, after completing a project I had poured my heart into, I would pause and really savor the feeling of success, allowing that warmth to spread through my entire body. Over time, I noticed how these amplified emotional states didn't just feel good. They acted as magnets, pulling more positive experiences into my life. This process became a powerful reminder that it wasn't just what I thought that mattered, but how deeply I felt those thoughts. Another key insight was understanding the importance of consistent mental habit formation. When I observe my mind wandering into worry or doubt, I now see those as signals indicating where I might need to redirect my focus once again. To reinforce my desired reality, I employed visualization as a tool to lock in emotional clarity. Not merely a mental picture, but a vivid, multi-sensory experience where I could feel the textures, hear the sounds, and smell the scents associated with my evolving success. When I successfully engaged all these senses, I noticed my subconscious began accepting these scenarios as plausible and even inevitable. This process is akin to planting a seed and watering it with hope and certainty. The more frequently I nurtured this internal landscape, the more resilient it became in the face of external challenges. Now, consider how this applies when obstacles inevitably manifest along the way. Instead of viewing setbacks as failures or signs of unworthiness, I started interpreting them differently, seeing them as opportunities to re-clarify my intentions and hone my vibrational alignment. I reminded myself that resistance often indicates areas where I still cling to old beliefs or conflicting desires. By gently releasing those attachments, I created space within myself for more clarity and conviction. For example, if I encountered a financial gap, rather than stressing over the lack, I would shift into gratitude for what's present now and trust that resources are moving toward me in ways unseen. Recognizing that problems inherently signal areas for inner growth transformed frustration into a catalyst for deeper alignment. I stopped viewing challenges as fixed barriers and instead saw them as signposts guiding me back to my core truth. Another subtle but profound realization involved the language I used internally when contemplating my goals. Words carry powerful vibrations, and replacing scarcity-based phrases with those of abundance served to recalibrate my mental frequency. Instead of saying, "I can't seem to get ahead," I began affirming, "I am naturally progressing toward greater prosperity," or "opportunities are flowing to me with ease." These shifts weren't just superficial edits. They subtly shifted my subconscious story, enabling new pathways to emerge naturally. Over time, my internal dialogue became a supportive backdrop rather than a saboteur, reinforcing a sense of momentum and possibility. Finally, I became more aware of how vital patience is in this process. Sometimes, I would look for immediate signs, only to realize that persistent doubting or eagerness can inadvertently block progress. Instead, I practiced trusting that each step was orchestrated perfectly, even when it was not immediately visible. Real patience involved acknowledgement that many of the results I desired were already in motion, even if I couldn't see tangible proof yet. This perspective fostered a calmness that is difficult to describe, a state of openness and receptivity that invites windfalls in the form of unexpected blessings. I began to understand that true alignment isn't about forcing outcomes, but about surrendering control while maintaining unwavering belief that everything is aligning for my highest good. This internal stance creates a fertile ground where abundance can sprout naturally, like a seed breaking through hardened earth after the right conditions are in place. The more I allowed myself to let go of resistance and fully inhabit this space of trust, the clearer it became that success was not something to chase, but something to embody, rooted deep within. Once I began to see the subtle power of my mental environment, I realized that cultivating a state of sustained emotional positive expectation was essential. It wasn't enough to occasionally feel hopeful. My vibe needed to remain consistently high to truly attract abundance. I started observing how external circumstances could influence my mood, but instead of letting them dictate my emotional state, I deliberately chose to anchor myself in feelings of gratitude, confidence, and excitement that aligned with my goals. This was an act of inner discipline, creating an energetic refuge that no external doubt could penetrate. It was almost like building an inner sanctuary where the sights, sounds, and sensations of my envisioned reality became a refuge I could retreat to whenever the outside world threatened to destabilize me. This intentional emotional anchoring carried a profound effect because I understood that vibrations are what act as the primary currency of manifestation. I stopped believing that simply visualizing or affirming my desires was enough. Instead, I tailored my entire internal environment to resonate at a frequency compatible with prosperity. Imagine calibrating a finely tuned instrument. Every string must be at the precise pitch to produce harmonious sound. If one string is out of tune, say, lingering doubts or feelings of unworthiness, the entire melody falters. I had to listen carefully to my inner voice and make continual adjustments. That meant catching myself when negativity sneaked in and consciously redirecting my focus toward what I wanted to feel rather than what I was afraid of losing. Consider for a moment how sensory engagement amplifies this effort. I used to think about achieving my goals in a purely abstract way, visualizing numbers or scenarios without truly immersing myself. Then I started to evoke all my senses to make these visions more compelling. I imagined the cool touch of a new wallet overflowing with cash, the scent of fresh money, the taste of wine or coffee during a celebration of my success. These details magnetized my subconscious to accept that these scenarios were not distant dreams, but a reality already in motion. In this way, I wasn't merely thinking about wealth. I was immersing myself in the emotional and physical experience of already having it. These sensations cemented my vibrational alignment, creating a ripple effect that drew opportunities, money, and favorable circumstances closer. Furthermore, I recognized the importance of consistency, not just in mental focus, but in daily intention. That meant establishing routines that reinforced my belief system, becoming intentional about the thoughts I fed myself and the emotions I cultivated. I began journaling my success stories, writing as if I had already achieved every goal, feeling the exhilaration of manifesting my desires in my words. When I'd revisit those entries, I could almost taste the victory. This active reinforcement shifted my subconscious scripts from scarcity to abundance, creating a new blueprint for what's possible. These practices strengthened my inner foundation, making my belief in abundance resilient against setbacks or delays. Now, think about how facing challenges from a different perspective transforms their impact. When opposition appears, I don't see it as external proof of my limitations. Instead, I perceive difficulty as an invitation to refine my vibrations. Every obstacle became a mirror reflecting areas where I might have held residual doubts or conflicting beliefs. My response shifted from frustration into curiosity. I'd ask myself, what can I learn here? What shift can I make in my feeling or perception to align better? That mindset transformed resistance into opportunity. Instead of fighting situations outside myself, I turned inward, seeing how I could elevate my feelings and thoughts to match my desired reality. Another nuance I discovered involves the importance of language and the narratives I tell myself in moments of silence. Words have a way of reinforcing or dismantling mental patterns. If I caught myself uttering, "It's so hard to succeed," I'd flip the script immediately because those words create a sense of scarcity and struggle. Instead, I'd speak into my mind, "Success flows easily, and I am open to abundance in unlimited forms." This continual self-dialogue rewired my subconscious, embedding new, empowering stories that supported my expansion. It felt like rewriting the code that constantly runs beneath the surface, determining what's possible and what isn't. The final aspect I embraced brought a gentle patience that accepted timing without anxiety. Instead of obsessing over when results would materialize or forcing situations to hurry along, I practiced surrender, trusting that what I focus on will unfold when the timing is right. I had to quiet the inner critic that told me I wasn't doing enough or that I was falling behind. Instead, I began affirming, all is unfolding perfectly, and I visualized my goals as already achieved, knowing that energetic alignment is enough to attract the details into reality. This relaxed attitude created space for grace and ease, making manifestation feel less like a distant dream and more like a natural rhythm, like the pulse of harmony beating steadily within me. From this calm, confident state, I discovered that prosperity can flow freely, unencumbered by the need for constant control. When surrender and high vibration coexist, manifestations emerge with a surprising grace that reminds me success is an effortless byproduct of inner harmony. Reflecting on this journey so far, I realize how every insight I uncovered acts as a stitch in a larger tapestry, woven together by intention and awareness. Each revelation, whether about energy, emotion, or belief, converges into a unified truth that transformation happens within, subtly shaping the fabric of external reality. It's as if I had been walking through a dense fog, only to discover that the path was illuminated by the light of my own conscious choice. The subtle shifts in perception, the deliberate cultivation of feelings, and the diligent reprogramming of stories all serve as different threads working in harmony toward a single purpose, creating a new foundation on which abundance can rest. In doing so, I've come to see how the tapestry's strength lays not in one isolated action or thought, but in the weave of consistent patterns. The gentle persistence in aligning my mental and emotional states serves as the ground for everything else to flourish. This cohesive flow of energy isn't something external to me. It resides deep within, waiting for acknowledgement and nurturing. Every deliberate act, every moment of genuine gratitude, acts like a gentle stroke on a canvas, gradually revealing a landscape rich with possibility. It's a reminder that the act of transformation is ongoing, an art crafted carefully with patience, clarity, and unwavering focus. Envision this process as tuning a delicate instrument, an intricate dance of subtle vibrations that, over time, entrain everything around them into harmony. When the internal melody resonates at a higher frequency, external circumstances tend to align more effortlessly, as if responding instinctively to the subtle cues I send out. The consistent reinforcement of high vibrational states acts like the steady flow of wind that fills the sails of a ship, guiding it smoothly across unseen currents toward destination. The collective energy I emit, built from my beliefs, emotions, and intentions, becomes a magnetic force attracting what I focus upon. Looking back, I recognize how deep change often isn't visible in rapid flashes but manifests through these gentle, persistent currents of energy I cultivate daily. Each moment of intentional clarity adds to a momentum that irrevocably shifts my relationship with what I desire. It's as if I've been setting stronger roots, anchoring myself more deeply in faith, transforming fleeting hopes into a resilient foundation rooted in certainty. This internal stability becomes the launch pad, not a guarantee that everything will happen exactly the way I expect, but an unwavering trust that I am aligned with the flow that moves all things into place. Throughout this process, I've learned that guiding principles aren't only about redirecting thoughts, but about embodying an unwavering state of openness and calmness. This stillness within becomes a fertile ground where inspiration, opportunities, and synchronistic moments can easily take root. Instead of rushing toward goals, I have learned to surrender to the natural rhythm of life, knowing that aligned energy fosters effortless unfolding. When doubts arise, I remind myself that every fluctuation is simply an invitation to refine, to deepen my belief in what's possible. Each temporary discord serves as a signal, a gentle prod nudging me toward a more precise harmony. In embracing this philosophy, I realize the power of subtle influence over my entire experience becomes undeniable. The inner adjustments I make extend beyond surface-level efforts. These are shifts in the very architecture of how I see myself and my world. It's as if I've been tinkering with the internal settings of my vibrational antenna, fine-tuning it to pick up signals of abundance that were always present but previously obscured. This continuous alignment acts as a bridge, connecting the internal landscape with external expressions, opening pathways that were once hidden. In the glow of these insights, I become acutely aware that the path is less about force and more about flow, about cultivating a space where what I desire can arrive with grace. The greater clarity I cultivate internally, the more effortless the external manifestation becomes. This realization sparks an anticipation, a sense that what I've laid as a foundation will only deepen, expanding my capacity to co-create with life's natural currents. Every shift, every conscious choice, acts like a gentle ripple, slowly transforming the shape of my reality from something imposed to something inherently harmonious. To me, this is the essence of true power, an ongoing, unfolding dance with existence itself. As I reflect on the journey I've taken, I realized that the true transformation lies in understanding how deeply we influence our own realities through the unseen power of our minds and emotions. The energy we carry, the stories we believe about ourselves, and the feelings we consistently hold generate ripples that shape every aspect of life. When I began consciously choosing thoughts rooted in abundance, I started to notice a shift, not just in my circumstances, but in the very way I experienced life. It's as if my world responded to the vibrational frequency I emitted, aligning opportunities, people, and resources in harmony with my focus. The realization was profound. The external cannot be separated from the internal landscape we cultivate. This awareness helps me see every moment as a chance to reset, to reconnect with that core truth that I am a creator, shaping my experience through aligned intention. Even in times of challenge, I understand that resistance and impatience only clog the flow, creating unnecessary obstacles. When I accept this truth, an empowering sense of responsibility awakens within me, that I hold the keys to my own fulfillment and abundance. If I nurture a mindset of trust and gratitude, then abundance feels like a natural expression of who I am, not an elusive goal to chase outside myself. In essence, life responds to the signals I send. Those signals flood my consciousness, influence my feelings, and guide my actions. Seeing the power of my own thoughts and emotions in this light invites a different kind of attentiveness, one that is gentle yet relentless. Instead of striving or forcing outcomes, I learn to embody a state of effortless flow where faith and clarity become my guiding principles. The act of believing in possibilities becomes a form of sacred dialogue with life itself, an unspoken promise that I am open, receptive, and prepared for abundance in all its forms. It's about cultivating that spacious inner environment where obstacles are dissolved not through effort, but through a shift in perception. With patience rooted in trust, I begin to see setbacks as necessary details in a larger symphony, each playing its part in the unfolding of my highest good. What I notice now is that every thought, feeling, and intention is a seed planted into the fertile soil of existence. When nurtured with loving attention, they germinate into manifestations that surpass my initial hopes. This isn't about controlling every detail, but about aligning so deeply within that synchronicities become natural milestones. Joy, appreciation, and genuine excitement serve as compasses that guide me through dark or uncertain moments, illuminating that all is unfolding precisely as it should. This awareness fosters a calm confidence. I realize that tapping into this inner wellspring of abundance is less about effort and more about surrender, letting go of doubts that weigh me down and trusting that what I desire is already making its way toward me. In this space of authentic alignment, I am reminded that the deepest fulfillment isn't necessarily found outside in material possessions or external achievements. It's embedded in the way I carry myself, grounded, filled with gratitude, and open to receiving. True power emerges when I recognize that everything I seek already exists as a potential within me, waiting to be realized through my willingness to expand and believe. Once I embrace this, density and struggle lose their grip, replaced by a sense of ease and unity with life's natural rhythm. My role becomes one of conscious co-creator, attuning my inner frequency to the abundant possibilities that are always present, waiting for my acknowledgement. So, I trust this process of awakening and growth isn't finite. It's an ongoing dance, a continual refinement of awareness that deepens my connection to my inner strength. When I give myself permission to fully inhabit this truth, I am no longer at the mercy of external conditions, but instead serve as the conduit for limitless potential. Every day becomes an opportunity to return to that pure, expansive space of trust, knowing that the flow of life is always moving in my favor, even when I can't see it clearly. With each thought I choose, each feeling I cultivate, I reinforce the realization that creating a life of genuine abundance is not merely possible. It's inherent in who I am when I align with the deepest part of myself. And that knowing, that partnership with life, becomes the most beautiful, freeing journey I could imagine.